Meeting is being recorded.
Well, good morning, everyone. Uh, Welcome to our virtual event of Adventures in Chile with Luke Safford. My name is Donito Burgess. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at Tucson Bird Alliance. And whether we're out birding or doing virtual events, we start all of our events the exact same way. And it's by telling you about our mission and why we do what we do. Our mission is we are out here to inspire people to protect and enjoy birds. And we feel very strongly that one of the ways we can do that is by bringing you these types of presentations to see all the wonderful birds that exist, all the wonderful opportunities for you to go see them. And hopefully you'll feel inspired to protect and enjoy these birds moving forward. Another reason why we do it is just a lot of fun. Like I said, I've talked to Luke a little bit about this, but I'm really excited to see this presentation today. Sounded like a great trip. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to my colleague Luke Safford.
Awesome. Thanks, Danito. And great to see all of you who are with us today. Great to see a few of you who I haven't seen or talked with for a long time. I saw Nancy Bilderbeck from London on there. Nancy, we haven't talked for a long time, so it just reminds me of great memories of yesteryear, 2020, 2021, when we were doing all these different virtual events. And yeah, it was really good to see you. Good to see everyone here. And looking forward to talking with you about the experience that we had in Chile as Tucson Bird Alliance with Sabrewing Nature Tours. Just got back. Feels like it was just yesterday. It was actually just a couple weeks ago. Some of the folks who joined me are on the talk today too. I saw Sirpa, I saw Peggy, I saw Paul and Lisa. I think there might be a few others on here too. So um, it's really cool that that we can develop this community through not just trips at Sweetwater Wetlands, but also international trips. So it's really a special thing to be a part of. As you can see here, this is one of the birds of the trip, a diadem sandpiper plover. And as I was putting together this talk, it's hard to like narrow down almost 3 weeks of birding into 45 minutes. But I'm gonna do my best to work through all these different slides that I have. And I just realized as soon as like we open this that I tried to get everything. The one special bird that I forgot to put into the presentation is actually the one on my hat, my bird of the trip, the Magellantic woodpecker. So we're going to go to eBird, and I'm going to show you that as well. So uh, lots to cover. Let's get going. We should have time for questions at the end. And yeah, let's roll. So here's our group at one of the other really special birds of this trip, King Penguin Colony. This is in Useless Bay, down at the very southern tip of Chile. And you can see our group here. We got Rob right with his big head right there in the middle doing the old selfie picture, and hard to get all of us in the picture, but here we are at Parque Pinguino. And this is where we had about 80 different king penguins. And I'm going to be showing some king penguin footage here pretty well, not pretty soon, but later on in the talk here. But one of the really special parts of our trip. And of course, this whole thing was put together with Sabrewing Nature Tours. They're one of three different partners that we do our international trips with. And along with Naturalist Journeys and Victor Emmanuel Nature Tours. Saberwing has a special place in Tucson Bird Alliance's heart. Like they really do a lot of work with us around the festival, one of our largest sponsors of the festival, and then the owner of the company, Rob, one of my good friends too. So I always love doing trips with Saberwing. You can see the dates. It was October 16th through November 1st. We actually got back on the 2nd. That was a Sunday. And like I said, it just feels like the other day. Here's our map from our eBird trip report. Altogether, we had 119 checklists and 212 species. You know, what's really interesting about Chile, when we think of South America, we think of things like tropical jungles and all that, like Ecuador or Colombia. Chile is a lot different. So it doesn't have like the huge diversity like you have in Ecuador or Peru or anything like there, but what it is, it's really the quality over the quantity. So it's much like it's very temperate. It's a lot like Alaska or like from actually, as you can see here, we started in Santiago. We worked our way down to the Patagonia area in Tierra del Fuego. It's like kind of going from California up to Alaska. So we drove this area from Santiago to Puerto Montt, which is this, you can just got the arrow there. So that area from Santiago to Puerto Montt, that's like driving from Tucson to Provo, Utah, or Junction, Texas. Danito knows that route from here to Junction, Texas. Some of you know the route from here to Fresno. It's a big area. So we had to cover a lot of area to visit all these different um, places and to see all these different birds. It's not like you can drive an hour and get to a whole huge different habitat. You have to drive a little bit longer distance to get to these different varieties of bird species. So there's a lot of driving, a lot of travel involved with this trip, but that was a necessity that we signed up for, that we knew it was coming. Maybe we didn't know the extent of the travel, but it was worth it because we got to visit all these different areas. Then we flew from Puerto Montt down to Punta Arenas. From there, well, that's Santiago to Punta Arenas, and really that whole area is like flying from Tucson to Seattle. So you can see like the breadth of what we covered. It's a really, really long country, and there's a lot of travel involved. There are a lot of van rides, a lot of flights. So, but it was worth it. And as I just was thinking about how to, talk about our experience there, instead of going day by day just kind of was getting monotonous as I was putting it together. It reminded me of when my grandparents would come back from they'd go on these, different vacations, and they'd drive from here to like Nashville or Great Smoky Mountain National Park. They'd come back, they'd give all of his grandkids a t-shirt, and then we'd sit down and they'd get the slide machine out, and day by day, we'd have to suffer through that. And I wanted to do it a little bit different, as much as I love like seeing all those pictures. So instead, I broke it down in four different parts: mountains, food, boats, and awesome birds. Okay, so this first part, we're going to get into the mountains. This is a picture of me and Scott up at yeah, I'll just say Valley Nevado Ski Resort. Not that great with Spanish, but it's probably pronounced a little bit different. But we spent a lot of time up in the mountains. We spent a lot of time in the mountains, a lot of times with the ocean and the water. And but the mountains is where we did a lot of our work, especially for, oh, hey, forgot. Yeah, Rio Pine. We went from Valle Nevado around the Santiago area, all the way down to the mountains, Andes Mountains in Patagonia. This is the Rio Pane, is the Pane River. And up in the background, you can see Torres del Paine, just the southern tip of the Andes Mountains. It's incredible. Just really the most beautiful area I've ever been in my life. And, growing up in Washington, I've been in the mountains everywhere up there and all the beautiful places in Arizona. Just been to a lot of places, but nothing is more beautiful as the Andes Mountains, in my opinion. And there we saw, this was like one of the major birds that everyone travels to the Andes Mountains for. It's the Andean condor. And we had really good luck with Andean condors. We had a total of 96 of them. Here's a picture that Sirpa took of, they're like turkey vultures landing up on these, you know, uh, telephone poles and stuff like that. It was just crazy. Like, but we never got tired of them. I remember we were down second to last day, and we are coming back from Torres del Paine and driving back to Punta Arenas, and we are in the van, and I saw Andean condor come over, and I was like, well, everyone take that in, that soak that in. That's probably going to be our last condor of the trip, as we're moving out of the mountains. But then, like throughout the rest of the day, all the way through to Punta Arenas, we're having condors over us all the time. So like, it was incredible to just be surrounded by condors. Not the longest wingspan in the world for birds. It's like it's close to that. It's like in the top five, the longest wingspan belonging to the wandering albatross. But it just the breadth of the wings was incredible. And we saw them on the ground feeding on like a cow carcass or something like that down in Patagonia. And with them were some crested caracaras, and you might be familiar with the size of a crested caracara. And they were just like dwarfed by these condors. They look like little crows out there, like even smaller. So it was condors were pretty incredible, and we had a lot of them. Also, up in these mountains, that same area where the picture of Scott and I were at, we had mountain caracaras. Speaking of caracaras, we did really well with caracaras. We had mountain caracara, we had chimongo caracaras. We call them chimichanga caracaras, but they're really chimongo caracaras. And we had white-throated caracaras, and then these mountain caracaras. It was um, they instead of just crested here, but they all sorts of caracaras down there. And this one was perched up on one of the buildings at the ski resort, and yeah, maybe not as majestic on top of a roof like this, but as it flies over, it's a beautiful, awesome bird. So also up in the mountain area, one of the very first bird that we saw at the beginning of the slides was the diadem sandpiper plover. And so I wanted to share with you a little bit about our search for this bird. And it started on the west slopes of the Andes Mountains, east of Santiago. And we did this huge long drive to get out. I was like, like, how far are we going to go for this bird? And as we were driving, we drove by this reservoir, and this is one of the really beautiful places that we drove by. This is the Yeso Reservoir. And along the way, we also got really distracted and by different birds that we saw that we had to drive so far out there. Like, we got to get out there for the sandpiper plover. Like, that was our main thing for the day. This was like our third day, I believe, second or third day into our whole trip. And like, this is going to be our only chance for this diadem sandpiper plover. And we kept on getting distracted by other birds out there. This is a gray-breasted seed snipe. Also gives you an idea of like kind of the habitat that we were driving through. You're up above the tree line. You can see this huge rock slide in the background. And we ended up having like 40 plus of these seed snipe along the way up there. And um, on a previous trip that we had done with some of the folks, we had gone to Ecuador a couple of years ago, and some of the people were on that trip as well. And we had missed seed snipe back then, and so we were all like really excited to actually find and see a seed snipe this time around. It's the gray-breasted seed snipe. And then here's another kind of big habitat picture as we're driving out there. You can see no trees around. Had these little ponds. Basically not really a pond, more of a bog. And at these bogs, we'd have either like in this case Andean geese kind of nesting. So remember the other really weird thing about um, Chile at this time of year. October, November, it's not fall. It's not going into winter. It's spring going into kind of like early middle spring. And so it's going into all the breeding seasons. So these Andean geese are pairing up and setting their territory and getting ready to nest. And so we'd see these little pairs of Andean geese all around these bogs, along with a lot of other really interesting birds, cyclodes and other small brown birds that we probably won't get into today. We're just focused on the like the really majestic ones, but there are some really interesting other smaller birds out there too. But we kept on getting distracted by these birds, and finally we got up to the area Termis Diploma, I believe is the name of the area that we were working our way up to. And this is a picture of it where we had already, by this time, had already found the diadem sandpiper plover. And you can see a few of our crew taking pictures. You can see them right here. And the plover is probably like back in here, kind of, this is a hot spring area. And then over on the right is like this amazing, beautiful, like rushing river that kind of went off on the right side here. And when Scott Crabtree first spotted it, it was over here, and then got a lot of pictures of it. Then it flew back, flew over to the river. We found it over there. Then it flew back to the hot spring. Lots of commotion, lots of great. We were all excited about it. We were so excited. I think Lisa forgot, misplaced one of her books here, and we were so bummed about it. But there's just a lot of excitement that was going on here. I have a video of the diadem sandpiper plover. There's a picture of it. This is from Peggy, and we couldn't get enough pictures of this bird. Uh, is here. I'm going to show you. Let me do a new share and not my email, but diadem sandpiper plovers. You can see there's a lot of sightings right here by Santiago. The dark purple is like where most of the sightings take place. And if we scroll back, you can see they have a range that goes up into Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, all along the Andean mountains here. But the main spot is going to be right here around Santiago. And just to give you an idea of how far we went, here's Termas de Plomo and Santiago right here. And so we did this huge drive. It's right along the Argentinian border. So pretty awesome how far we had to go for that. And we had the success. Here's a video. This video is by Rob. You can see the diadem is the circle of white on the top of the head. That's what it's named after. This is when it flew over to the riverside and it perched up on a rock for us. Just amazing bird. I would have never thought that I'd see this in my lifetime. And that's what these different trips kind of get you out to. Like, I mean, diadem sandpiper, plover, Magellanic woodpecker, king penguin. These are birds that you just kind of dream about. And you have to, like, it takes a lot to get to these places and to search for them. And it's trips like this that just kind of just knock your socks off. It's pretty cool. So we found that. It was really exciting. So another really cool thing that we came across when we're up in the mountains of the Andean mountains in Chile were these trees. These are monkey puzzle trees. This is further down. So like we had the experience in the mountains there in Santiago, and then we drove down to a town called Temuco. I think it was Temuco, where we went out of to go to Conguillo National Park. And these trees, they were named monkey puzzle trees over in England when they were in some arboretum there, and that's the name they came up with. There's another like more legit name probably for them, but this is what they're called. And so it's like one of the best spots in the world to see these monkey puzzle trees out in the wild. And really was interesting, like the main thing that we went for this national park to was to see these trees and to just see the scenery. This is Rainbow Lake in the national park. We really lucked into it, and I can't believe I forgot to put my picture on it, but we found a Magellanic woodpecker on a monkey puzzle tree in this national park. One of the most awesome things that we saw during the whole trip. I can't believe I forgot to put it in here, but I do want to show you what a Magellanic woodpecker looks like. So back to eBird, and let's go to explore. And everyone on the tour can give me a bad time for forgetting to put this in. So here's the male Magellanic woodpecker right here. But everyone knows that the female Magellanic woodpecker is the best looking. And this is the female right here. She has this cool little curly top, curly Q coming up out of her top of her crown here. And just a little bit of red by the base of the bill. Just a amazing looking bird. There's another picture of her right there. And we saw the male in the monkey puzzle tree. We had a male and a female that I have a video of that I forgot to put on here next to us earlier in the trip at a different location in the mountains. And it was incredible. And I didn't include it. I can't believe it. All this other stuff I included. But these monkey puzzle trees were amazing. And you can see some in the background up here. These are smaller ones. And here that we got ashy-headed goose right there. Here's a picture from Peggy, one of the other birds that we saw in this mountain region. Lots of geese, lots of ducks throughout the whole trip. And that's something that really, like, I was really looking forward to as we were going down here. I'm a duck person. I'm a waterfowl person. So we got a lot of good geese, a lot of good ducks. And then to finish up this mountain section, Torres del Paine. And as I said, this really was the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. And I think the whole tour was amazing, but if I could have just like stayed in one place the whole time, this would have been the area. And it's down at the very tip of Chile. And yeah, I'm just going to go back and show you in the map just exactly where it's at so you can get a feel for it. So here's Punta Arenas, Tierra del Fuego. This is the Strait of Magellan here. And this is like the major town that you fly into, Punta Arenas. And then you drive all the way up to Puerto Natales. We stayed there for a couple nights. And then here's Torres del Paine. And so you can see all these different fjords, mountains. And so it's crazy because here in Puerto Natales and this whole area, as you're driving up through here, you're only at the most like driving around like at 2,000 feet, 2,500 feet. So you're not any higher than Tucson, but what you're doing is I mean, in Puerto Natales, you're at sea level, right? Because you're right there at the ocean. This is the Pacific Ocean. But so you're at this kind of like low elevation level and then looking up into these towering mountains of the Andes Mountains, Torres del Paine. And you can see you're kind of above the tree line. You got guanacos like leaping over fences and out in this like big open area with rivers in front and lakes in front and mountains in the background. Um, we also had not only guanacos, but we also had giant hairy armadillos out there. Just amazing, fantastic, beautiful area. Crazy animals, crazy birds. The experience out there, Lisa shared these really cool pictures. We had these kind of, now I'm forgetting the name of this bush, but it was some kind of like rose or like fire bush. And like so the whole mountainsides were covered with these red bushes that were flowering at the time.
Luke,
And yeah, Lisa, what was that called?
Patagonian scarlet gorse.
Patagonian scarlet gorse.
Yeah.
See that 3 times fast. Thank you, Lisa. I love like just the sights, the people, the scenery was and I bet Paul and Lisa would agree. Like this was my favorite part and area of the whole trip. I just loved it. And here's another picture of the scenery. You just take that in. I mean, there was a few times where like, oh man, the travel was kind of getting to us and we're tired and we're hungry and there's just a lot going on. But then you just put it in perspective, like we're here at the base of the Andes Mountains, soaking this in. It was incredible. And here's one of the waterfalls that we had, and this is a river that we were looking for torrent duck, and we had missed torrent duck at about like through every other location that we had looked for torrent duck prior to this river where we dipped. It's not just dipping on things here in Tucson, but we dip on things on these international trips sometimes too. And so like no torrent duck, no torrent duck, no torrent duck. And we got to our last river that we might be able to find it. And actually we had checked it a couple times already, and we got out this last spot. It was like, this is our last spot for torrent duck. And I was sitting in the back of the bus, and so I was the last one out, and kind of almost, I don't know if y'all remember, but some of you, I tripped over we had the little stool that sits out of the van, and to help us get out of the van and all that. And I just like busted out of the van, flew out of the van, almost fell straight on my face, tripping over that thing. Got the scope out. Even before I could set all scope out, I looked down there. It's like, there it is right there. And found the torrent duck. And there's this female sitting on, I didn't notice at the time, but she was sitting on a baby. Then the male was kind of swimming around. They're really far down there, but we were able to get good scope views. I looked on our eBird trip report. I couldn't find anyone that had a picture of it, but we did see the torrent duck finally. So we're really excited for that on this river. And that was kind of like one of the last moments that we had in the mountains during our time in Chile. And even though we didn't get a picture of the torrent ducks that we saw there, I did get a picture of a torrent duck on a beer that I had in Santiago. So this is our picture of the torrent duck, Corta Corrientes, and you can see it right there. The beer wasn't bad at all. And but so let's I'm going to use this as a transition to move from part one in the mountains to part two, the food and drink. So we had a lot of mountains. We also had a lot of pisco sours. This is like the drink of choice for quite a few of us as we're getting together and having our dinners. Have a picture later on here of like all of us sitting down around the table, and that was, part of really the experience and the joy that I have during the whole trip is getting together with everyone for dinner at the end and lunches together, and we're always eating and drinking together and enjoying just where we're at as a group. So I want to show you some of the different like food that we had there. So this is choriana. There's a lot of beef and a lot of fish, a lot of salmon, hake, beef. As we got further down, there was a lot of lamb or mutton that people had, but a lot of it was seafood or beef. And this is one of the dishes that I had to try out as I was looking ahead to like what kind of food can I expect in Chile. This is one of the dishes that kept on coming up as steak and fries and onions and eggs. And it was as heavy as it looks. It was pretty heavy. I only had it one time, although I was tempted to have it again. It was interesting. And one of the other dishes that we had is that we had a lot of soup, maybe not as much soup as we had in my experience at Ecuador, but definitely a lot of soup. This is one of the famous Chilean stews, the cazuela, and it's like a big hunk of meat. There's a piece of corn on the cob. I think it's kind of down in the soup here on the right, and some different vegetables. There's always a lot of potatoes with every meal. It seemed like carrots, squash. That's a big thing. Kind of, the hot soup is important there because it's cold. And so this was, I'm not usually a soup person, but this was really good. And we had this at one of our um, lodges around the same place where we'll see we had Rufus Lake Owl. We'll see that later on in the talk here, but yeah, it was needed on a cold day to warm up with this soup, with this stew. As I said, there was a lot of beef. There's a lot of meat. It was just heavy meat oriented. There's definitely options for people who didn't want meat, but when we were in Puerto Montt, we went to the same restaurant back-to-back days because we just loved it so much. And we ate family style. We had these big trays of beef and chicken and sausage and potatoes that were brought out to us. This is a picture of Eric Ritma, one of the guides for Sabrewing. I tried to take the picture to make it look like the whole plate was his and that he cleaned it off. But no, that wasn't just Eric. That was all of us. We all worked to make sure to devour that big plate of meat. But it sure was good. And there was some leftovers. We tried to eat as much of it as we could, but I think maybe the order was a little too big. But that was a fun night, fun couple of nights. We also had a magician come by that wanted to do some tricks for us, and yeah, we should have said yes, but we did turn him away. But that was kind of lots of loud music there too. It was a fun atmosphere, in my opinion, at this restaurant, and so we went back for the second night. Also, all the food was really good. All the food was fantastic. The one meal I didn't really care for was this is like a pumpkin dish. It was like this was it when we were in Puerto Natales. And I think it was a choice between this and salmon. And I'm not really a salmon guy. I'm not really a fish guy, which I guess is, maybe I should become one. But so I chose the pumpkin dish with this egg on it. I was like, oh, I like eggs. Let's try this out. And it's not like pumpkin pie dish. It's like pumpkin dish. And it was like stringy. It was, this is the only dish I didn't really care for. Otherwise, it was all good. This was interesting. I just wanted to put it on here because it was interesting. The one thing I didn't realize I was eating, but did eat, was conger eel. Now, this was not a picture of the conger eel that I ate, but this is just a picture of one that I found on the Flickr Creative Commons site, just to give you an idea, to give myself an idea of what I did eat. So one night we were staying right along the ocean, west of Santiago. And we went to this really local kind of fish place. And so I was like, all right, well, I need to have some fish. I need to have some seafood while I'm here. And they always, usually had like a English version of what the Spanish, or, it was all in Spanish, the menu, but they had usually an English version along with it. And the Spanish was congria frio, or congria. This English translation was fried sea bass. And so I took that as sea bass, and I was like, all right, I can eat sea bass. That sounds good. Fried sea bass. I was just like a mistranslation or something. Well, it was definitely a mistranslation, and unknowingly, I guess most everyone else at the table knew what I was ordering and didn't say anything to me, who heard me. And it ended up being fried conger eel. And I was told this a couple days afterwards. And so it was kind of like a running thing that was going on, that I ate conger eel without knowing it. I would have never ordered it, but I wish I would have taken a picture of my actual meal that night. It was really good. It was really good. So if you ever have a chance to have conger eel, go for it. I probably won't again, but it was really good. So it was always kind of, maybe it wasn't always fun every night to try and figure out what we were ordering or what we were doing, but it all worked out. And looking back on it, it was a great experience to try and figure out what we were going to eat, looking up the menus on our phones. And yeah, it's part of the experience, right? You got to, kind of experience. It's something we don't experience when we're in Steamboat Springs or Tucson. Like, we're somewhere else. So um, let's experience that. And I certainly did without knowing. Here's a picture of us as we're getting ready to eat. We're all full of smiles, ready to chow down after a long day of birding, and really enjoy this time that we have with everyone. All right, that's enough about food. Let's get back into some birds and the experience, especially when it comes to boats. Now, as I was going into this, I knew that we are going to be doing a pelagic trip. I knew we were going to be doing some other boat trips. And as I said, I'm not really a seafood guy outside of fish and chips and shrimp, and I'm not really a boat person outside of big boats because I don't know, I just have to hold on tight sometimes when I'm on different boats. I don't know why, but I was like, I'm going to do this. I'd love to see some albatrosses. I'd love to see some shearwaters. I'd love to see some giant petrels. So we're going to do some boats. And I know I kind of knew what I was getting into. I also didn't know the full extent of what it was going to be like. So here's a picture of us out on our pelagic. And thankfully, we don't really, it's crazy. I've done a couple other pelagics, and both times you have to take the boat way out to where all the pelagic birds are at. So like out of Gray's Harbor in Washington State, we had to take the boat about 30 miles out to get to the shelf where all the black-footed albatrosses are at, where all the northern fulmars are at. Here off of Chile, you only have to go about, well, actually, you don't even have to go offshore sometimes for some of these birds. But to get out to where we're chumming and all that, it's just about 5 miles. So you don't have to go very far, which is pretty cool because you got the Humboldt Current there, and then it's just like a huge dramatic shelf and drop off. And so you have all these seabirds not very far out from the coast. But this is us. You got some Peruvian pelicans here. You got a bunch of kelp gulls. I think in the background here you can see one of the black-browed albatrosses and a few other birds that are around here. We had a lot of well, we'll get to some of the other birds we saw. Here's a video that Paul shared. Here, this is the boat that we took out for our pelagic. You can see our benches in the background here. So there's 4 rows of benches. And in this picture, you can see that a few people kind of stood up by I can't even think of whatever this area is called. I can't even, up where the captain is at. And then we're back here on our benches. It was kind of crazy. The benches were kind of bolted in, kind of not. There was the last 2 benches kind of like were swerving by the end of it, and we had to like kind of stand up a little bit and get them back in place. And they'd vibrate a little bit. And yeah, I didn't really move from where I was at. This is Hurrigan, one of our local guides that was with us, Scott and Eric. Here's Sirpa over here. And they're a little bit more adventurous standing up. I didn't stand up, but we definitely saw a lot of birds while we were out there. Here's some of the birds that we had. Black-browed albatross. We had Inca tern. This is one of oh man, when we think of terns, we just think of boring black cap, red bill with a black tip on the end of the bill, white with, maybe a little bit of a shading black gray in the wing tips. But Inca tern, now that's a tern that I can safely identify. We're not having to figure out between these Arctic common Forster's terns. We got Inca terns, and they're really common out here on the pelagic trip, and they're just beautiful, and they'd swoop by and come around the back of the boat and come down into the chum line and all that. These Inca terns were one of the most fabulous birds we had out there on the pelagic. Here's a Westland petrel. We had Westland petrels, and we had white chin petrels. They're really similar. Thankfully, we did have mostly white chin petrels, but we also had this little group of Westland petrels. They have a black tip on their bill. The white chin usually have like a little white, as their name suggests, a little white chin, but it can be hard to tell. So like we were having to look for these petrels with the little black tips, and thankfully we were able to come across some. And Kurt got a wonderful picture of this one right here. But yeah, just amazing experience. Oh, yep, don't want to move too far front. But so that was this boat right here, not too bad. Not too bad. It was, you know what, we kind of, it was a long time out there um, but we all kind of made it through. It was a little smaller boat than what I was hoping, but it worked out really, really well. And people got some great pictures off of it. All right. So then we worked further down the coast and we get down into the lake region south of Santiago around a large town called Puerto Montt. Puerto Montt and is right next to Chiloé Island. And Chiloé Island, off of there, there's um, uh, a colony of Magellanic and Humboldt penguins. And so we took this boat right here. You can see this. I think it's kind of like a Zodiac boat. And so we took this Zodiac boat out around these islands here and then further out to look for both of those penguins and see what else we could find. And the experience for this boat is you don't just step down off of a pier into the boat, but instead, this is how we got into the boat. We all piled into this little cart. Not all of us, we kind of did like little sections. We piled into this cart, and here the different local guides there and the captain of the boat and his crew wheeled us out to the boat, and then we walked down from this little cart down into the boat. And looking at that, it was not only quite the spectacle, but I was also a little nervous about this boat. But this was actually one of the best boats we were on. It was really good. Here's what it was like inside of it as we were going. Not too bad. The weather was good. We really lucked out with the weather with a lot of these. Very little wind. You can see there's not a lot of waves right through here, and we just went right up along these islands. And this was actually one of the best boats that we were in. And we saw a lot of good birds. This was a really good boat trip that we took. Not only birds, but we also saw these sea lions. Here's a little video, sea lion video. Danita, are we able to hear the sound through this? Did I forget to click that?
I don't hear it. So
Can you hear the sound on that? No, you couldn't. Okay. Here, I'm gonna do a stop share. Because I got some audio clips coming up. So I just realized that. So I'm just gonna reshare here real quick. Because I forgot to hit that share sound button. My bad. I'm glad I caught that now though. Okay. Here we go. So we got these let's play this again. Now can you hear it? All these sea lions out here. And then we were looking at these sea lion colonies, and there was like kelp geese up in here and like all sorts of different cormorants that we'll go through. But then we really lucked into it. One of the coolest birds of the trip. Right there, put a little circle around it. You see that white bird right there? It looks kind of like a kelp goose at first, but then we were like, no, that's not a kelp goose. You can see a black vulture next to it. This is a black vulture here. Anyone have an idea what this bird is right here? Snowy sheathbill. Now, this was like a bird that we actually had to put like notes in. I guess one has been coming up and there during the summers a few different years lately, but there hadn't been any records there since like last summer or something like that. But we lucked into it and found this snowy sheathbill that none of it, like we had to write it into our we did like a daily little checklist, and snowy sheathbill is not on our checklist. It was not a bird that we thought that we were going to see, but we lucked into it. We found a snowy sheathbill out there. They're kind of like scavenger birds, kind of like a pigeon almost, but they are normally down in Antarctica, and they're usually found in these like sea lion, like different colonies of sea lions or things like that, and they kind of pick around in the sea lion turds, which is kind of weird. They're kind of like a weird scavenger like that. But this was like one of the really cool birds that we found on this boat trip. Also had a lot of cormorants as we were as we were, on this boat going around. We don't just like terns. We don't have the Inca tern is not a boring tern. Cormorant, same thing. We have boring cormorants here in Tucson. Double-crested cormorant, neotropic cormorant, kind of boring. Brandt's cormorant out on the coast of San Diego, those are pretty cool, but still pales in comparison to the cormorants we had here. Red-legged cormorant, Magellanic cormorant, Imperial cormorant, all three of these were right in this area where we were checking out the sheathbill. We also had neotropic cormorants there. I'm not going to put a picture of that up. Like we all know, we don't care about neotropics, but we do care about, yeah, I guess we do. But Imperial, red leg, just amazing Magellanic cormorants. All right, so the next day, or maybe it was a couple days after we did this, the kind of Zodiac boat, before we left Puerto Montt, we took a sailboat out. Now that sounds like a peaceful trip, right? Well, no. This is my least favorite boat that we took out. And look how peaceful it looks out there. This is in the Renclaw, I think I'm gonna butcher the name of it, but this is Renclavi Sound. So kind of like the Puget Sound up in Washington, but the sound that kind of goes around Puerto Montt and Chiloé Island and then goes out into the Pacific Ocean. And so we were out in the sound and we are looking for a specific storm petrel, which is why we went out into the sound in this sailboat. And here's Hurricane driving the sailboat while the captain chums. And really, we don't have any other pictures during this this outing. I was too afraid, honestly, too busy helping folks who just to make sure that everyone was good. And while one of our participants, I won't say who, did chum a little bit herself. I feel so bad for her, and I was trying not to chum myself. As we were going out there, we were kind of going like up and down. I don't know if you can see me, up and down this way, and then on the way back, we were going up and down, or we were going side to side the other way, and it was just a lot. I'm not a sailboat guy at all. I haven't been, and I'm not really anymore. And we dipped on the storm petrel. It was a bummer, but we have to try, right? We have to try. And even though it was a little rough, we all came out of it fine and good for the rest of the trip. That was rough. What one bird we did see while we were out there, this picture is not from that. This is a Chilean skua that we saw later on down around Punta Arenas, but we did have Chilean skua right at the end. Yeah, I think quite a few people saw, so that was that kind of saved the trip for us. And then the last boat that we took out was a big ferry that went across the Strait of Magellan from Punta Arenas over to Tierra del Fuego. And this is a little video of what it looks like. We just like, if there were any waves, like it was crazy. Type of boat that I really like. It's just like, overcomes all those waves and you don't feel it, but you still get awesome birds, awesome sightings from the boat. There's a Peel's dolphin that Peggy got from the boat, from the big ferry there as we're crossing the Strait of Magellan. Here's Magellanic penguins. We had these big groups of penguins that we drive by, or not drive, float by on the ferry as we were going out there. And the wind was whipping in our face and it was pretty cold, but it was worth it to see these groups of penguins and albatrosses. And just to think that hey, wait a minute, we're on the Strait of Magellan. Like this is like a mythic kind of area that is like totally foreign to people from Tucson. And we're in this place going across to this island that's beautiful. And the whole reason we crossed this island, and here's our last part of the talk, whole reason we went across is to get to the bird of the trip, king penguins. A king penguin colony that was found, and there's about 80 or so king penguins that are out here on this called Useless Bay. Intuil, yeah, I can't remember the Spanish name for it, but the translation is Useless Bay. All these different names of bays and points and things that like useless or famine or just like just a despondent bay, like, hey, we got to this point, now we know what to do. And that's what the explorers called it, because like they trying to find their way from the Pacific Ocean to Atlantic Ocean. But anyways, the king penguins. This is one of my pictures that I got through my phone and scope. It was just, this is the baby. The baby's here on the left. You can see they're a little bit thicker than the adults. It's because they haven't gotten all their blubber yet. So they have all these feathers that kind of take the place, and they lose that and just go through a transition phase to get their adult plumage. Here's a video that Paul sent in, and then we're going to have a video that Scott sent in too. I'm going to go to that. But here's Paul's video. You might be able to hear him.
This guy, it's just sat down in this guy. He has like the guy on the left. Yeah, just like, I'm done.
The adult's going to feed the baby right here.
So when you see them like that, it's like, I can feel it. Sad.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then let's go to, I want to share Scott's video. Let's get over to that. Oh. That's showing up right there, Danito. I want to make sure that's good. Okay, I'm gonna play it. Oh.
And then
You can hear that thing was gonna lift its neck up. It's like, that was awesome. When we were out there, like, these penguins are doing this kazoo thing like the whole time. You kind of know when they're going to do it too. Lift their neck up like that and kind of display it. Put their flippers out, stick their head up, and do that. That was so cool. I think Scott said he said pretty awesome. All right, let me go back to. But the king penguin really, I mean, man, that was a powerful moment seeing these king penguins. One of three penguins that we saw: Magellanic, Humboldt, and King. But these were definitely the best. This is what the colony looks like a little bit. This is part of the colony. You can see this is the ocean in the background, got the bay, that Useless Bay right here. And then it kind of this, not irrigate, it's not an irrigation dish, but kind of look like a part of a slough. I guess it'd be called a sluice that comes through there. And that was separating us. So this is about 30 to 40 yards away from us. We're pretty close to the penguins. That was a pretty awesome experience. So we had a lot of like really interesting birds throughout our whole trip. And so I'm just going to work through some of the ones, and I still can't believe I forgot to put our Magellanic woodpecker pictures up here, but here's some that really stood out to me. Lesser rheas. So it's like the ostrich of South America. And these lesser rheas, like, I was hoping to see a few, but we saw a lot. So in the Patagonia area, in these grasslands, they were kind of like wherever we would see guanacos, those kind of like llama looking animals, we would also see lesser rheas. And they'd be right alongside the road, or they'd kind of be out, in the fields, and just crazy looking birds, like nothing like that around here, but all throughout Patagonia. And yeah, they're incredible. Now, this bird are elegant crested tinamous. So tinamous are usually hard to see. You can see they not only blend in really well, but they also are like quail, kind of, we know how hard it is to see Montezuma quail, scaled quail, like they blend right in and they kind of stay, and they're not flying around or anything. So we did this one little drive. We had one spot, one chance to look for elegant crested tinamous. And we were able to fit it in as we crossed from Tierra del Fuego, the island of Tierra del Fuego, over to the mainland. And we just had like half an hour to look for one. as we started doing this drive. And then I think it was I can't remember who it was that I think it was our local guide, Claudio, who spotted them. And they were right next to us in the van, and Peggy was able to capture a really awesome picture. Elegant crested tin moose. So they're bigger than quail. They're a little bigger than grouse, but they're still, they're not huge. And you can see how well they blend in. And this is one of the most, this is beautiful land birds that I've ever seen, just with that. Again, maybe it's something with the crest. Just like that Magellanic woodpecker I showed you earlier, whenever a bird has a crest, I think it just kind of like pops in our mind a little bit more. And we also saw Chilean tinamous, no crest on those, not as exciting. It's got to be the crest. That's what it is. We only had 3 species of hummingbirds. We had as many penguin species as we had hummingbird species. Chile is just, like I said, it's not a tropical place. It's more temperate. And so when you think of like hummingbird species in the state of Washington, you have Anna's hummingbird, and you have rufous hummingbirds there in the summer, and black chin hummingbirds in the summer, and really that's it. So it's the same sort of thing, in that temperate climate. 3 species of hummingbirds. We had Ecuadorian hill star. No, not Ecuadorian. We had white-throated hill star. Sorry. White-throated hill star. I think it's white-throated. Giant hummingbird. And then we had a thornbill. The best hummingbird we had was this one, giant hummingbird, just as its name suggests. It is huge. It's like a bat, like the size of a bat flying around. And we had a bunch of these actually at one of the marshes that we were at around the marsh. Like they'd be like 2 of them, kind of like huge hummingbirds. It's just like when you first see it, it's like, man, that's a bat. No, it's a huge hummingbird. This was a really tough bird. It's the Magellanic plover. It's in its own family. I think we should rename it and call it the pigeon plover, Magellanic pigeon plover, because it kind of reminded me of a lot of like a smaller rock pigeon or like a mourning dove. And it had kind of the body shape. You can see its tail kind of looks pigeon dove-like. And so we were at the big open area with the big lake, kind of the lake kind of reminded me of like something like not a really deep lake, and it's surrounded by all these grasslands, so kind of like a salt lake, kind of a little bit. I don't think it was salty or kind of but you can see it's got these mud flats around with all these rocks, and the Magellanic plover is the same color as the rocks. So we were like walking along this lake, and it was really going to be the only spot that we were going to be able to see Magellanic plover. And we walked out, and pretty far. We walked out maybe 3/4 of a mile along this lake looking for it. Didn't come up with it. And we were like, oh man, we didn't see it. So we started walking back and kind of spread out, hoping that someone would find it. Thankfully, sure enough, Eric spotted the Magellanic plover, and there was 2 of them. And so we all got really good looks at it. And yeah, it was going to be our only chance to see it. It finally came across it. Magellanic plover. It's pretty range restricted, and like I said, in its own family. So pretty cool that we were able to catch it. Also in the same area, there's 2 different dotterels. This is one of them, tawny-throated dotterel, and it's just an outstanding looking bird. Like in these, it's pretty cool. Like I love birding the grasslands, and just like, as you're driving along, looking at the fence posts or looking for, dotterels or seed snipe, or, up here, you're looking for meadowlarks, you're looking for snipe. And of course, there's meadowlarks and snipe down there too. But just like trying to find these different areas. And remember, it's springtime, so they're setting up all their breeding territories. And so we're driving along through these grasslands and looking for dotterels, and we were finally able to find this one. I remember when we saw this one, Sarah, I had to use Serapha's picture because she spent some time trying to get a picture of it, and sure enough, got an awesome picture of this tawny-throated dotterel. It was definitely the bird of the day for quite a few folks. In this same area, we had Chilean flamingos, and they were pretty far out there. And we got some geese in front. These are it was right there on the tip of my tongue. Oh, what are those geese? Someone jump in. I always wanted to call them urban geese. They're not urban geese. It's a different. Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Upland
A lot
goose.
to go.
Upland, yeah, Peggy chimed in.
Upland geese. Thank you. Upland geese. They're everywhere. Upland geese were everywhere. As I was always making these, trying to lighten, keep things light and keep things kind of funny. And so I would call them urban geese instead of upland geese because they were everywhere and like in all the towns and everything. Upland geese. And so that kind of, I always forget what they're actually called. Upland geese. Thanks, Peggy. And but in the background, these Chilean flamingos. And so just like put yourself here, we got flamingos, we got penguins, we got rheas. This is like a whole new suite of birds that we're not familiar with. It was just incredible. Here's me and Peggy looking in the background. This is kind of the area where the flamingos were at. This pond is a lot like a very small pond compared to the lake that we were looking for where that plover was at. To just give you an idea of what the landscape was like when we were looking for flamingos and dotterels and Magellanic plover. Here's so moving back up into the mountains, and this is the same area where we had Magellanic woodpecker and we had a rufous-legged owl. Now, what was really cool about this owl was just the sound that it made. So here's an audio of the owl that we saw that was captured by Scott. And so let me play this and just kind of, we walked away from these owls and we heard these like as we were walking back to our lodge. It was just crazy, the sound of it. Here we go. We weren't in the jungle, so that sounds like a jungle sound. Let's see, I think it's coming up again here soon. Let's just listen to it one more time. There's like 2 to 4 of these owls all around us, and you can see it might be a little hard to see. Kind of quit talking while I'm going, but it's kind of hard to see. But you can see it up here. It's a lot like one of our barred owls or spotted owls. That same sort of family. Had some other owls. We had burrowing owl on our first day. We had austral pygmy owl. That was a really good one. Here's austral parakeets. Now, before they flew into my face. So like this video that I'm going to show you right here was just like a fraction of the amount of parakeets that we had at our lodge. This is they were feeding on these berries. There was probably 80 to 100 of these parakeets kind of in this whole area. And after I took this video, I wish I would have kept it going. All of a sudden, for some reason, they flushed. And they came like literally right by my face. Like I thought I was gonna get hit by these parakeets. But here's a little video of them. One of 3 different parakeets that we had. We had these. We had burrowing parakeets, and then we had I think slender-billed parakeet. I think that was the name of it. They got like they're very close to austral parakeets, but they have like a really weird-looking bill. So not like a whole bunch of parrots and parakeets, but this is definitely like one of the high points for us too. We, another family of birds that we don't have here in Tucson. And I realize we're 12:06. We got about like 5 more minutes. Five more minutes. So think about how you would pronounce this name. Chestnut-throated what? It's actually kind of pronounced chestnut-throated whet. When I went into this trip, I was calling them Hewitts. Kind of got made fun of for that. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but chestnut-throated whet. And there's a group of birds called tapaculos, and they're really hard to see. They stay on the ground, more often heard than seen. And this is one of the ones that we did see. Peggy got a great picture of it. We spent a lot of time doing some playback, trying to get responses, and this one showed up very nicely for us. Here's another one. This is one that was a little bit more that was out in the open for us that we didn't really have to call much. This is a mustache turca, and this is one that we saw up in Santiago. You can kind of see the cactus there. It was like this kind of palm forest that was beautiful, where we saw this guy. And then here's what it mostly looks like when you're looking for tapaculos. It's standing around. This one was out in the rain, and you can see we're all really thrilled, like trying to find this Chukal tapaculo, and we never did really see it, but Scott got a really good audio recording of it, so I'm gonna play it for you. This is what we're hearing all around us as we were looking for this particular species. Here we go. It's Chukal tapaculo. Gonna call again here. We'll listen to it one more time here. There we go. We hear it, but we don't see it. We did see the majority of the tapaculos that we're going after. We had Magellanic tapaculo. We had I'm trying to remember all the white. I think it was white. Maybe white-throated or white something tapaculo. Black with a little white spot. It must be white net tapaculo or something like that. And then we had yeah, the other ones that we saw. I'm not going to remember all of them. Too many birds. And but this is what it felt like sometimes. But more often than not, we would actually see the birds. And so I got one more bird to show us, and I wanted to leave with something that was like really colorful. Multicolored rush tyrant. This was saw this a couple different times in the marshes along the coast west of Santiago. And one of the most colorful birds that we had, multicolored rush tyrant. They're kind of like the same habitat as like a marsh wren. There was a few other birds that we were also looking for in that area called one was a ticking doradito. Kept on wanting to say ticking donito, but no, ticking doradito. Sorry, Donito. Like every time we look for ticking doradito, though, I did think of you. It was kind of like a yellowish bird that really hides in the rushes. And then we had another bird, a rush-like wren, something, another small brown bird that we were looking for. Getting all the names mixed up, but there was like this one, multicolored rush tyrant, wren-like rush bird, and ticking doradito. We're looking for all three of these in these marshes, and thankfully this was the one that was easiest for us to see, and we saw it a few different times. Multicolored rush tyrant, just a beautiful bird, and kind of emblematic of some of the birds that we were looking for in Chile. Like hard to see, but when we found them, we were ecstatic, and like it was moments that we remember. So the last final kind of rundown. This is this is one of my favorite pictures I took. You see this rock back here in the background? when I first saw it, I was like, hey, that looks like a face. So with the nose right there and kind of lips and then kind of like a hat or ears. And so I tried to kind of see if it looked like my face there. And I think it's pretty close. But this is when we're on that like Zodiac boat looking at the cormorants and the sheathbill. Uh, but just like a final rundown of what we experienced when we were in Chile. 212 bird species, 120 checklists. Can you believe that? Over 17 days, 120 checklists. That was pretty amazing. 3 penguin species, 96 condors, and of course that one conger eel that was eaten by me. But just it was fabulous. It was a long trip. People asked me like when I got back, like, how was your trip? It was amazing. The scenery, quality birds, quality people. It was a long trip. It was a long trip, and but totally worth it. And here's a maybe not the greatest picture, but one of my favorite pictures that I took of the king penguin that was like laying down and just like the headshot. And this is just one of the 3 international trips that we do on a yearly basis. And if any of you are ever interested in going on a tour with us and one of our partners, to reach out to me or reach out to Danito, reach out to one of our tour companies that we partner with. You can go to this website here on our on TucsonBirds.org and look to see where we're going next. Uh, our Oaxaca trip next year is already filled with Sabrewing, but next year I think we still have room on a trip to Colombia with Victor Emmanuel Nature Tours that I'll be on. I think we still have room on a trip to Peru with Naturalist Journeys later on in the fall with Jenny McFarland. And then pretty soon we'll be putting our trips up for 2027. We have a trip planned to Guatemala with Sabrewing. And we have another trip to a different part of Colombia with Victor Emmanuel Nature Tours. And then Danito is going to be doing a trip with Naturalist Journeys to India in 2027. So those will all be getting put up pretty soon. And we'd love to have you join us on that. We know that's not for everyone, whether it's a trip to India, whether it's a trip to Sweetwater Wetlands. Hey, our mission stays the same: to inspire people to protect and enjoy birds, to build a community that we have for the sake of birds and for our sake too, because it's important to develop those relationships, develop the community that we have, and to have birds as a catalyst for that is pretty special, whether it's in Chile or at Sweetwater or in Colorado, wherever we're at. So thank you guys so much for kind of reliving that with me and with us. Uh, it is a lot. And I was trying to remember all the bird names and all the things that we did. But that's it. And if anyone has any questions, we have some time to take in the questions right now. If you have any, feel free to, I don't know if we'll go through all the ones that were put in the chat, but why don't we start with like if any of you want to share one verbally, a question with me, and then we can work into the chat ones if we want to. But thanks again. And yeah, that was the Chile experience.
What was the final count on the urban geese?
Oh, the urban geese. Let's look here. Let's go to that. And as we're going there, let's see, Tanito or anyone else, if there's any other questions, we can hit those too. So let's go to eBird.
While you're doing that, Luke, you can
Yeah.
answer. Lori was wondering if y'all saw any Patagonian conures. I believe they're also known as burrowing parrots.
We did get burrowing parakeets. Let's go to our trip report. Oh, I got to sign out. I'm in my, why don't I have it? Oh, I know. Okay. Hold on. I can figure this out.
You got it.
Because I'm in the TAS filters one, and I haven't shared the trip report with the TAS eBird thing yet. I know I need to. So let me get into mine real quick. But we did have burrowing parakeets, and we even saw like at one point we were by this bridge, this beautiful river, and along the bridge, the burrowing parakeets would sit up on kind of on the railing of the bridge and then go into their burrows, which are just like right in the cliffs of that along the river. Let's go to trip reports. Here we go. Here's the Chile trip report. So upland goose 767, and not all of them were eBirded. Eric tried to keep up with the eBird checklist so much, but there's only like I bet that was in the thousands for upland geese. Let's go down to the burrowing parakeets, which should be right in here. There they are. And the pictures, well, 12 pictures. We got a lot of pictures of burrowing parakeets. There's the burrows. Thanks, Ted, for getting that picture. That was awesome. There's burrowing parakeets in flight. Oh, we drove by just past that river spot. There's like so burrowing parakeets are really tied to agriculture too. And so they're feeding kind of in this field. And then they were landing on the barbed wire fence. There's a couple of them. They're pretty big parakeets. There they are outside the burrow. Awesome. What other question? Any other questions?
That was all in the chat.
Okay,
But I will just say real quick, just thanks to everybody. It was a really fun chat. Even though there wasn't a lot of questions, just people commenting, things like that. So it was a really fun chat. So I just appreciate everybody's participation there. It made it a lot more fun on my end.
I think I know I was really trying to keep it at 45 minutes, but how do you keep 3 weeks into 45 minutes? So if you're still here, hey, more power to you. Thanks for being here. And yeah, if any other questions do come up about Chile or about any of our international trips, just send them our way. We're more than happy to help out with answering anything.
Yeah, and then another thing too, I will be listing the trips that I'll check the availabilities on our upcoming international trips, and any of them that are still open and have spots, I'll go ahead and list those in the follow-up email that I'll send out to everybody here in about an hour and a half.
Hey, how about we end with actually looking at the Magellanic woodpecker pictures that we took here real quick. Because I can't believe I forgot to add those. I'm just kicking myself. Look, 22 pictures. This is how we're gonna end. All right, there's a male. Striking. Oh, here's the male in the monkey puzzle tree. You can see the monkey puzzle tree arms in the background. Oh, okay. Ted nailed it. Look at this female Magellanic woodpecker with this little curly Q up here. This was it. This was it. Pretty awesome. So yeah, that's a good way to end. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. And we're gonna wrap up. And yeah, just appreciate you. We'll send out the recording here in a bit too. Danito follow up with you guys. Thanks again.
Thanks.